you need to charge your computer.
Yes. Trinity me.
Yes, sir. Sir? No, sir, you don't. You just listen to what we're fixing to instruct you to do. You need to get your computers out, please. Have them on your desk. You're getting 2 pieces of paper given to you. You also need something to write with, okay? You should have your computers fist closed. You should have your writing utensil, and you should have the piece of paper that Mr. Sellers has given to you. I'll finish handing those out if you want to go ahead and start booting up.
You ready with yours? All right, what you have in front of you is a KWL chart. I want, with today, like Coach Jones said, this is part of a larger lesson. It's going to culminate at the end, I hope at the end of the quarter. If it doesn't, then we'll just go longer. Now,
Add for this. Sure. All right, so 7th or 8th grade, what book are y'all reading in class, in literature class? All right, what's the main topic of it?
The Holocaust.
All right, so now you know where we're going with it. 7th grade. Eventually, towards the end of the cycle, of the testing cycle, you're going to read a book in 7th grade called The Diary of Anne Frank. Can anybody tell me the preface behind, or the idea behind The Diary of Anne Frank? What's the main episode that occurs in human history? The Holocaust. The Holocaust is going to be the main theme. This is something called project-based learning. Project-based learning is going to be a new type of learning. Some of you have already been introduced to it. Every day that you're in this classroom, that's what you're doing. You're doing project-based learning, using the new technology that you've had made available to you this year. You don't know how beneficial it is that y'all have this technology. There are people around the state talking about the advantages that you have over everybody else. So it's a privilege to have these computers. And when you get to college, I'm in graduate school right now. I'll finish 1 degree in December, starting on another one. You know how many times I've walked foot on the campus that I'm at? How many times I've been on campus? 1 time. That was 2 years ago. Every class that I've done has been straight internet. Online the whole time. They give you an assignment, it's project-based learning, you do it. If you don't submit it on time, you fail. You submit it on time, it's great. We have internet time that we pull up online, and I can talk to my professor via Skype. That's how I talk to her. The school I'm attending is 7 hours away. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't feel like getting up on Friday morning, driving all the way to Jacksonville, Alabama, going to class Saturday, and then driving all the way back 7 hours on Sunday. That's the world you're going to live in. That's the virtual reality that's coming. Okay? Now, Mr. Sellers has been gracious enough to allow us to do this in this class. You have 2 sheets. The first sheet, as Mr. Sellers explained, Mr. Sellers, you said it was a KWL sheet, right? The second sheet explains to you what it is. A KWL sheet. Let's go over it real quick. KWL is intended to be an exercise for a study or a group project that can guide you in your reading and understanding of the text. Basically, there's 3 parts to it. And as you can see, there's an example of it right there that you have for you. What does the K stand for? Know. What you know. So in that first section of that, this is pre-knowledge. This is going to be something that you write down that you already know about our main topic, which is going to be what? The Holocaust. You're going to write down as many things as you can think of in that first section. The second part of the section is described as what you want to know. And the second part of class today, basically what you're going to end up doing is we're going to explore some websites using something called a virtual field trip. How many of y'all have ever been to Poland or Eastern Europe? Raise your hand. How many of you have been outside of the United States? Raise your hand. How many of you have been outside the county? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you have been outside the state of Alabama? So, you've experienced traveling to different places around the South or around the United States. But myself, Mr. Sellers, have you been out of the country?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to Europe?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Sellers is an example. He's been somewhere across the pond, as they call it, across the Atlantic Ocean. I've never been there. I want to go there before I die. I want to go to Europe. I want to explore these places that I've taught about for 21 years in history. One of the places I want to go are the battlefields of World War II. One of the main places you're going to be talking about today and seeing pictures of are the death camps. So at the top of your page right here, the KWL, make sure you put your name first and last. You also need to put the topic. The topic is again what? Holocaust. The Holocaust. Today's date is the 18th of September, 2013. Mr. Sellers has a Moodle classroom, correct?
Yes, sir.
That you're able to log into. Mr. Sellers, I'm going to let you run that part of it, and then when we get back to it, I'll pick up where we left off last week.
All right. For the major part of this assignment, you'll be going to my Moodle page. You can open your computers up and be logging into Moodle. Look for this assignment: Holocaust Virtual Tour 1, the death camps. I'm sorry. Now, specifically, like Coach Jones said today, we're dealing with that area of the Holocaust that deals with death camps. Now, what you're going to be seeing is there's some pretty graphic images. All right? But, hey, history is that. History's graphic. It wasn't always pretty. Okay? So once you get on there, I'll show you what I want you to navigate to.
This is going to be the second part of the chart that you're filling out, which we've already defined as what you want to learn, or what you will learn in the KWL chart. KWL and other reading strategies are basically designed for the user to be able to understand text. There's going to be all kinds of different reading text that you're going to be involved with. More often than not, how are you going to be involved with it? It's sitting in front of you. What's most of your reading fixing to start encompassing? Your computer. Your computer. Gone are the days of printing newspapers. As sad as I am to say it, I love getting a newspaper every morning and reading the news. But now it's easier for me to do what? Pull out my phone, look up AL.com and find out what I want to talk about and what I want to read about. Or go to my local computer and pull up what I see and what I want to see. There's millions and millions and millions of websites that are full of information. All kinds of good, bad, and ugly. These educational websites that you're going to be on, this is our way of providing a transport for you to be able to go to Poland and be on the ground level just like you're there with your own camera filming these places. That's exactly what this is designed to do. When you go on a field trip, what's the purpose of a field trip? To enhance your learning, right? The 8th graders, next week, you're going to World of Learning, or World of Wonder, where you're going to get off the buses and physically go into the Civic Center in Mobile and do what? Learn about different professions that you might be able to engage in once you get out of high school, or once you get out of college. This is just another avenue or another vehicle that you're going to use to explore different places that you've never been. So in the second part of the chart, this is what you're going to start seeing, okay? Once you've got it pulled up, Mr. Sellers will explain to you the second part of the example of what you're going to be doing. Yes, sir?
My computer is not typing. Jess, wrong.
Okay. We have one more technical problem here. He's saying it won't type or something. You may have to go to the computer. Yes, sir. Talking about school life? Yes, sir. I don't know. This is 8th grade. 8th grade get going more field trips than younger. Because why? Why did 8th grade get going more field trips than 7th graders? Because you're 8th graders. That's why. They earned that privilege.
All right. Let me wake my computer up. All right. The first thing we're gonna go to 2 places today on this field trip. But the first place I want to start is at the death camp. Is at the photographs of the death camps. Now, click on that link. It's going to take you to another page. You'll come up to this: Holocaust pictures, concentration camps, and ghettos.
That term ghetto. When you hear the term ghetto in our modern language today, what do you associate it with? Be careful about how you say it and phrase it, but someone please tell me what you think when you hear the word ghetto. Alright? It may have to do with a certain race of people. Not necessarily, it doesn't, but that's a stereotype. And it's very important that you understand what the term stereotype means. Stereotype is basically what one group of people thinks about another that's false information. Like my heritage is Irish. A lot of the time, stereotyping Irish people is that we're alcoholics, we die at a very young age, we have a bad outlook on life, we're very family oriented, and we're heavily accented and Catholic. Now, that's the typical stereotype of an Irish person. I don't fit that stereotype. I'm Catholic. I try to have a positive outlook on life. I don't drink at all. I'm very heavily invested in my family. I mean, I don't fit that profile. So what you think about preconceived notions about someone, it falls right into what we're talking about here, because what group of people had these preconceived notions about Jewish people? Nazis, the Germans. And they were fooled into thinking it. The majority of the people had no problem with the Jews. It was just a small, select few. Go ahead, Mr. Sellers.
All right. The first thing you need to do is look in the K column. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. I want you to write down everything or as many things that you know about the Holocaust already. Now, you don't have to write full sentences. You can write just concepts like Hitler. All right, you know Hitler's associated with the Holocaust, right? That's one thing you already know. So very quickly, jot down all the things that way. Jot down all the things that you know or you know that are associated with the Holocaust. 5 minutes. It is now 9:01, so at 9:05 or 9:06, we'll go to the next part.
And you've already heard some terms already.
This is yours.
You've heard people associated with it. You've heard places associated with it. You've heard groups associated with it. You've heard religions and races associated with it. So all of those are different things that you've heard. This is not a test. This is a pre-assessment of what you know. Okay? You're graded on your effort in the group. You're graded on your individual effort also. That's what the ending result will be. Okay? The way we document it is by doing what? What are you going to turn in? This paper. That's going to be part of your project grade. Okay? Yep.
I'm sorry.
Do you? Got English, Scottish, Cherokee.
Sure.
We don't have
Anything you know.
I know of in my
There's no wrong way to do this.
Scottish, Irish, English, a little bit of Welsh. Most of all mine came from Great. United Kingdom. If you fill up that blank and you still know more, what can you always do? You can flip it over and draw the 3 symbols on the back and fill up the back part of it. But since this is so short of a time span, you should probably be able to write down more than 5 or 6 topics. Again, remember things that we talked about already in your pre-knowledge. Y'all named off Hitler, Jews, concentration camp, ghettos. All of those are things that you should already know about. Especially you folks in the 8th grade that are reading the Devil's Arithmetic. Ghetto is an opposite section. It's a section.
Got about 2 more minutes, guys.
That is
no rush.
For a group of people. The first ghettos were established in medieval cities. In the medieval times, when everybody started going to the cities, and the plague wiped everybody out in the 1300s. They had different sections, and they would section them off because they didn't want anybody else being exposed to it. So that's where the term ghetto starts coming in. And nowadays, we associate the term ghetto with urban areas, broken down neighborhoods in the inner city, right? And that tends to be where the poor people live, right? And not necessarily has to be one group of people, it's just poor people in general. There's all races of people that live in ghettos. Like in New York, you have African Americans, you have whites, you have Hispanics. The largest groups of people that live in the ghettos in New York are Hispanics and African Americans. And there's large groups of white Europeans that live there too. It's because of economic conditions.
Okay, let's move on. Now, the next column you're gonna use will be the W column. And again, don't worry about trying to fill it all the way up. Just write down like you. All right, I guess we're on this site now. Particularly, you can look at any camp you want. Well, shoot. I want you to focus primarily, though, on the first link, Auschwitz and Birkenau. Now, you can explore all of these. But for example, if you click on a photograph and you see furnace, Auschwitz furnace. Well, you know what a furnace is already. You already know what that is, don't you, Riley? Huh? Who knows what do you do in a furnace? Alley cat. Cook or burn something. Well, obviously, what do they use this for? How? Not to kill them. Yeah, they were already dead. But the point is, if you're looking at this picture, and that sparks another question or something that leads to something else that you want to know more about, that's what you write down. Okay? You don't have to have one for every picture, but I guarantee you, as you look through these pictures, just like when you go on a real field trip, you're going to have questions that you want to ask. That's what you write down in this W column. Okay? So now, working with a partner, no more than, I don't know how many people we got in here. But if there's a group, I don't want no more than 3 in a group. Now, everybody's going to have to write. Everybody's going to have to write. But you can talk amongst yourselves. All right? If you see something and you want to make a remark, if Devin sees something, he goes, "Oh man, look at this, Minshew." Or what if you're that interested, that's fine. I want you to interact. Okay? This isn't like sit here and be quiet. Yes, ma'am.
Is a crematoria also where they burn them?
Yes. But if that's a question you got, write it down. Now, if you're absolutely just dying to know what something is, raise your hand. Me and Coach Jones, we're going to be walking around. You can ask us any question you want. Okay? Everybody understand? All right. So I'm going to give you now about.
It's 9:05 right now. They leave at 9:30, so I would give them no more than 15 minutes.
All right, I'm going to give them 10 minutes.
Okay.
Because I want you to spend the most of your time in the other one too. So spend 10 minutes looking through these photographs. And now anything you see that you want to look at, anything that sparks a question, write it down. All right? Keep in mind this. Hitler killed millions and millions and millions of people in these places. And there wasn't just one of them. You see there's a whole list of them. There's about 12 or 14. I don't know the exact number. They were scattered all throughout Poland. All right, but anyway, look through these pictures. Try to find something you can get interested in. And jot your questions down.
Remember, you've already done your pre-reading part. This is your during reading. You're actually looking through the text, trying to figure out what you're going to learn. Okay, you've already listed your pre-knowledge. Now you're going to be filling in the second portion of this section. The last portion will not be filled in today. Why? The last portion is the conclusion of it, right? Also, whoever you're working with, make sure you write their name down on the top of that page so that we'll know who's in what group. Go ahead and designate the person that's with you working at the top of the page. You should have 2 names, maybe 3 names. Probably more than likely you need to work in pairs of 2. Okay?
Yeah.
And also, please keep your discussion to a minimum noise level wise, because we don't want to interrupt different groups.
Coach, will you put my chair, or get that chair moved in front of Gilliam? Chrissy, I'm going to let Chrissy move up there with her.
Sure.
It would be a group if you're by yourself. Yes, that's fine. Huh? I would think so. Why do you think they were put in there?
There are going to be some words that you see that are associated with some of these pictures, like barracks. Can someone tell me what a barrack is?
Training for the soldiers.
It's the place where they stay. The barracks are the places where they live. It's like an apartment complex, but it's not 5-star hotel. I can promise you that. You can tell that from the picture. Yes, sir.
That's where they killed him at. Where they killed him at?
Roll it down.
Put it down. Dude, any question you got is
That's
fine.
something you need to work around.
You know, one of the things that sparked my interest, any question, like Zacho here had one that said, you know, it just popped into his mind. Why did Hitler hate the Jews? If that's what's something that you want to know, write it down. One of my questions is, you know, and this blows my mind, how could really virtually a handful of people kill and torture over 12 million people?
And can it happen again?
Yes, Logan.
Oh, what column would they go in for that?
Oh, we're in the W column right now. Anything that you want to know, if you're looking at this and going, how do they do this? Write it down.
Just like Blake had a question about the execution wall. What was it used for? Those are things that you can, when you see virtual images of things, a lot of the time there doesn't need to be any explanation. You basically just independently on your own figure out what the problem is and come up with an answer.
Here's a question for you too about the execution wall. Ask just, Blake, where you at? Ask yourself this: was that used for mass executions, or was it more for not fun?
To Hitler, I'm not trying to be like
Yeah, I know.
that.
Okay, I get what you're saying, but was it used for a lot of prisoners at one time, or do you think it was maybe one or two?
One or two.
Why do you think they would single those one or two out?
Just they try to fight their way out.
That was more of a direct punishment, probably, I would think.
This might be something that you want to look at too.
It's interactive, Coach. I forgot that was on. I did the same thing the other day. There you go.
Go back.
One more. There you go. Uh-oh.
They might know what the term gallows means.
It's where they publicly hang people.
Ooh, look at you.
I already looked at that one.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the forbidden zone?
What do you think?
Well, like, if people weren't supposed to go there, why didn't they have it locked up?
Well, the only thing I can, what's it look like?
What was the question?
It don't really.
Where's she at? Which one?
I'm thinking the forbidden zone would be the area between the fences. Around these camps, Kendall, they had a fence here, and then they had an inner fence where the guards patrolled. I'm thinking that's got to be part of a forbidden zone. It's anywhere where the prisoner couldn't go. Is that prisoner dead or alive?
It looks like that.
When I hear y'all saying these questions, what the heck is such and such, that's something you need to write down. Okay? It's good that you're asking these questions. That's the purpose in it. These are things that interest you. We're trying to stimulate independent learning procedures. Okay? Somebody tell me what independent learning means. Exactly. Learning on your own. You got to figure out how to do things on your own. You didn't figure out how to ride a bicycle till you did what a couple times? Fell off.
Kendall, see this fence and this fence? Guards patrol in between, guards and dogs patrol between
But
them.
how would they get up there?
I don't know. Through all my years of teaching this, that the prisoners hung on to everything they could find. If they found a piece of wire on the ground, it might come in useful later, so they'd hide it. Well, so, during the day, what do you think these prisoners did during the day? Were they just sitting around waiting to be executed? Possibly. Probably, but during all the hours of the day, were they just sitting around? If I had you as a prisoner, what would I make you do? Who said work? Way to go. These prisoners did work. Now, one thing that I brought out in the other class, you know who would be the two of the first people to go? If we were taking prisoner, who would be the? Me and Coach Jones. Why? No. Well, partially, yeah. But do we have a job that would help the Nazis?
No.
What is our job?
Teach.
They get rid of us. They wanted people, they wanted doctors, they wanted people who could work with metal and things and tools. So, Logan, if you were a prisoner and you were working in one of these shops, what would you try to do? I mean, you'd be working every day, but what would you try to do if you, let's say you had a pair of wire cutters that you were working with, or a pair of metal clips? What would you try to do with? What would you think about doing?
Try to cut the barbed wire with it.
So what would you do with those clips?
Cut the barbed
Ah, yeah, but
Hide
you
them.
just try to sneak them out. That's what they would do. I mean, these guys weren't sitting around all day eating and playing games. They was just the opposite. It was forced. It was slave labor is really what it was.
They made them a little bit. I remember in the Devil's Regiment they had the water potatoes.
We'll get to a section later on, Taylor, where it talks about the food they were given. My mama could stretch a pound of hamburger meat to feed a family of 5. She did that by adding things to it like crackers and bread. Well, you know what they put in the food for the Jewish prisoners?
Water.
Sawdust. They cooked garbage and would give it to them like that. I mean, they didn't have good food. They gave them just enough to survive. And there's pictures of that online you can find too. Yes, sir.
Why did they take the shoes from the prison?
Write that down.
They went far enough to have a barbed wire.
Alan, you got a question?
They said that the dogs that they killed dogs.
What was the
they killed
tattoo
dogs
of?
so they could feed them. Numbers. Oh, it was their number. And had a
Okay.
brand.
Huh?
Like brand. Oh, I know.
Kinda. Why do you brand cattle?
So
you tell them what-
Know which ones are yours. So those tattoos were for
They
identification.
were a J and a number.
Now, folks, part of this reason that we're doing this, and Mr. Sellers has already introduced you to the idea of the Holocaust, is because this is basically going to be an across the curriculum. You're going to see this in all different classes. We're going to do something about the Holocaust through the year in mathematics, in science, in social studies, and in this English and creative writing classes. You're going to see the project work its way all the way till we finally matriculate to the end of school, and it's a final project. This is going to be this is part of your problem solving and problem-based learning project. Okay? And we're doing it as a group of 7th and 8th graders. Think about how much more this is going to enhance when you read The Devil's Arithmetic and the Diary of Anne Frank. You're actually going to have pictures in your mind of what they're experiencing, especially in the Diary of Anne Frank when they start talking about the death camps. You've already been exposed to it right here. You have the visual images emblazoned in your brain. Those of you still working on the W part of the KWL chart, you have approximately about 3 minutes to finish up before we move on to the last part of the section today.
And then write that down, Angel.
So if you have got your KW, your K and your W filled up, don't just stop. You can write other stuff down, but if you filled it up, you can keep looking and exploring the virtual part of the field trip.
All right. Devin has a good question here. Why couldn't they just take over the guards? Man, that's a great question. That's a great question. We're going to get to that. I hope we get to a point where you can discover a reason. All right, think about it this way, Devin. How many students are in here? Maybe 25, 30? All right, there's one guy with a gun. Let's say the gun only has six bullets in it. What's the likelihood I'm going to be able to kill everybody?
Very rare.
I'm only,
Unless he lined them up and shot
chances
them.
are I'm only going to, on my best day, I could probably only get 6 of you. Well, what's the rest of y'all going to do?
Beat you up.
Why didn't they do that to begin with? Why didn't the Jews do that? Devin's got a great question.
They were afraid.
Mind control. The Nazis, or excuse me, whoever was doing this to them, used mind control to its fullest extent. I mean, here you have maybe 100 guards watching 4,000 or 5,000 prisoners. I mean, how's that possible? Mind control.
Fear is a great motivator. Think about the term. Fear is a great motivator. If you're scared, it'll motivate you to do a lot of things that you didn't think you could do. Plus, one other point that Mr. Sellers brought up, they also control them by not feeding them as much. What about their physical health? Are they going to be strong enough to start an uprising? No, they're going to feed them just enough to get the menial tasks that they need accomplished. Because if they die off, that's just one less that they've got to put a bullet in, right? Also, they're always going to increase numbers by bringing more of them in. There are trains that run constantly to these places. Every day, there's a train load coming. Mr. Pimple, did you have a question?
It probably would be a problem if there was a fearless Jew, though.
I'm sure.
Basically one that wouldn't be.
Okay, so you didn't have a question, you just had a statement to make, correct?
Yeah.
Caleb, I would
Yes,
think
sir.
there were probably a lot of fearless Jews to begin with. But as soon as those fearless Jews were eliminated, what did that do for the other fearless Jews?
Scare them.
It made them fearful.
It might be
Yes,
meaning.
Didn't they put the Jews in what they would?
Cattle cars.
Yeah,
Guys, there's a novel we're going to read.
the Devil's Record.
Is that well?
That's where I got it.
Yeah, he's got a great idea. I mean, they put them in cattle cars and they literally just stacked them. All right, guys, I've read things, and we're going to read a novel, hopefully, if we can get to it, about where people had to go to the bathroom. Well, they just had to stand. There was no place to sit. They had to do it standing up. There was literally people who would go, faint or fall or pass out, but they couldn't fall because they were held up by each other. All right, let's go to the next section. Go back to my Moodle site and find the Auschwitz virtual tour. We're going to spend the rest of the class period on this site. Again, you're still, if you have any questions, you're going to write it in the W column. Let me show you how to use it. Click on it. Now, when you get to this page, go to large images.
Go back to the Moodle page that he had established, and then go to Auschwitz virtual tour.
Your page should look like mine. Now, this is just a page telling you how to do it, but I'm going to show you. Scroll down to the bottom, you'll see an arrow.
If you're still having a problem finding it, raise your hand. Click on large. Click on large images.
Now, you should wind up in a place that looks like this. Now, after you click on large images, my courses.
It won't show up.
Okay, I'll be there in just a second.
Oh wait, never mind.
It tells you how to navigate. You click on a picture, then you hold the mouse and it drag it around to the left or the right.
Go to the next page, please. All right. Very quickly, like Coach Jones just said, you can explore these photographs by just putting your mouse on the picture, holding the trackpad down, and moving. You see the image moving? Now, that's the way that Auschwitz looks today. Now, but go through these photographs down here. Everybody look at the board for right now. See these pictures down here? There are pictures of cells. There are pictures of gas chambers. There are pictures of some of these photographs you've already seen, like the execution wall, Blake, that you can zoom in on. But anyway, here's one of the crematoriums. You can click on that and look around in there. You can also use this arrow button here, or excuse me, not the arrow, the plus button to zoom in, and the minus button to zoom out. Just hold your mouse whatever way you want it to go. You can go up, down, whatever.
You tech savvy folks that have iPhones and all these newfangled technological devices, does anybody know what that type of view is called? Panoramic. Very good. Good. It's 360 panoramic. On your iPhones, when you take pictures, does it ask you sometimes for a panoramic view? That's what it's talking about. Okay?
I used to be the person that had to stand in this and take pictures.
Exactly. This is the actual spot in Europe where all of this occurred. It's a little bit different looking at these pictures than looking at the black and white photos, isn't it? The difference between these and those, it makes it like it's real time. It's like you're there.
Which number is the
Oh,
extra?
you can't do that.
You got through them. I think it's towards the end.
We should- Oh, no, it's a little-
11.
There's other pictures.
So basically, this is like you walking around, like you just got off the tour bus, and you're walking around with a camera filming these actual spots. Except somebody's already done it for you, and now you're 5,000 miles away doing the same thing that a tourist could do in Auschwitz today if they went and visited and paid the entrance.
Yes, sir.
Did they make the people look like they were going on vacation? How'd they get on there? They did?
Yeah. That's part of land control. Well, I wouldn't say vacation.
I mean, they act like they had vacation.
Yeah. Here's mind control for you. Did they always tell the prisoners what was really going on?
No.
All right, they kept them confused as much as possible. Also, one of the first things the prisoners saw, if I could find it, if I can find the front gate. Anyway, the front gate, here it is. The front gate was the first thing they saw when entering the camp was a large sign that said Arbeit macht frei.
Where it brings freedom.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Yes.
It means, that meant work will make you free. Well, if they had a sign up saying death camp, would they want to go in? Got it. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. Just continue to explore for a couple of more minutes, and we'll probably have to continue this tomorrow.
When people went missing, like let's say that your Aunt Joe your Aunt Joe and Uncle Fred went missing. You're going to wonder as a family where they went, right? Well, the Nazis had such intricate propaganda that they had a group that wrote letters and would mail them to different family members and telling them that they were off on some kind of glorious trip and they would be back in a certain amount of time so that the families would not get worried about where they were. There's documented letters that show that. That's the detail that they went to. Now, towards the end of World War II, do you think the Germans were worried about writing letters? No. The thing you need to understand is, right in the middle of the war around 1942, 1943, Hitler decides something called the final solution. The final solution is, the outcome is what you're viewing right now. The death camps are instituted, and they figured that the best way of mass murder was to run them into a shower, and you've seen the pictures of the shower rooms, and they would tell them that they're going to delouse them and wash them down and keep them clean. Well, then all of a sudden, what starts coming out? Showers. You have gas coming out. And they they dropped them into a bath, and it created the cyanide gas that would come in. And they sprayed them through the shower heads. And then once the shower heads had choked everybody down and killed all of them, then they had a big, gigantic vacuum system where they would suck all of that air out and run it up through vents in the top. And then they would implore the other people to come in and clean up all the bodies, stack them up just like cords of wood on a wagon, pull the wagon around with a horse, and then where did they do with the bodies now? They went to the crematoriums. It basically was said that Auschwitz looked like a winter wonderland 24/7, 365 days the last year of the war. What do I mean by that?
Snow.
It looked like snow, but it was ash on the ground. There was so much ash on the ground it looked like snow every day. Constant. The chimneys were constantly blowing out ash. Think about that.
How big was the camp?
As as you can see, that's another question you need to write down. How big was the camp? Yes.
Did the guards stay in like nice houses?
No. The conditions that they ended up staying in were a little bit better, but eventually towards the end of the war, they started deserting and started leaving. When the Americans and the Russians came in and liberated the camp, there were walking skeletons walking around Auschwitz, the ones that had survived. Now, the first inclination of an American soldier is probably to do what if you see a walking skeleton? Is to give them food, right?
Yes, sir.
That was the worst thing that you could do to them. Why?
Call them with blood and thumbs.
Because they had been so malnourished for so long that if they ate a lot of food at one time, it killed them. They had to ration their food. Basically what they would do is they kept them all in, they'd lock them in, they wouldn't let them out. And they would put guards there until they figured out, they were finding so many of them, that they finally had to decide, we've got to lock them up and figure out a plan to deal with this. Questions? You've been a very attentive group today. We've got about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. So what I need for you to do, the KWL chart and the explanation, you need to hold on to that because you're going to turn it in as we finish with the project next week. I need you to go ahead and shut your computer down. You need to go ahead and start getting ready for third period. If any of you need your agenda signed for this, you can see myself or you can see Mr. Selby.
What are we, these in our,
Yes.
All right, we're gonna come back to this assignment tomorrow. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I hope you've learned something. I don't know if you enjoyed yourself or not, but
Well, we enjoyed it.